Hello everybody and welcome to this new episode of Gear Talk, and this time I'm going to talk to you about the Pentax LX. The Pentax LX is probably the best camera I ever used professionally. I mean, I loved this camera. On the small format, it's something that is exceptional, and I tried many different cameras and brands, and this one was my choice. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, it was very innovative in the exposure meter. The exposure meter had has a sensor inside the camera, down here in the camera, that measure the light that is reflected by the film or the shutter curtains. That you can see, they have this pattern of white spots that are made to simulate what is the average value of an image, and most of all they are made to be able to measure the light in a very fast way. And it was a real-time metering, so the camera was able to adapt to the change of light during the exposure, and this is very important when you have very long exposure, and we will see that with this camera you can take very long exposure in an automatic mode, and I really loved this. So precision of the measuring system is fantastic. Second of all, it's the shutter is made with titanium curtains. So here is not the usual silk, rubberized silk, but is titanium, and it's very reliable and very precise. The automatic mode lets us go from 1/2000 of a second to 125 seconds in automatic mode, and that's a very long automatic exposure time. And with the fact that the camera is able to see the changes of the sheen in real time, is something that it can be used in many ways. For example, I used it for lightings. It was very nice because you leave the camera open 125 seconds, and when the lights arrive, you shut down the shutter. So it's kind of really great. The other thing is, this camera had a TTL flash, so it had also the exposure meter was working in conjunction with the flash, with the Pentax flashes, or with a system like the METS, the CT60 I was used to have with the adapter, so it worked great. Other things that I loved about this camera, as about almost all Pentax, that is compact. It's still compact. It's a little bit bigger than the ME Super and MX that we saw in the previous videos, but still is a very compact camera, and it's very lightweight. It's only 800 grams, so it's a lot less than a kilogram, with the 50 millimeters 1.4. This baby here. So that's very for me important, because when you go around, it's very, I like to travel light, and that was for me important. If I want something that is more heavy and more difficult to use in some way, I go around with the medium format or a view camera. But with 35 millimeters, and by the way, it's fun that it was the small format and now we call it full frame, but with the small format I really love to have very lightweight and compact bodies. So this was. The other thing is, this camera is totally weather sealed, weather resistant. So there's a lot of seals around here in the camera that make this camera weather resistant, and this is another very important thing to have in a camera when you work professionally. But let's see the other technical specification that made me love this camera. First of all, I already spoke about the shutter that is absolutely very precise. A thing that is very fun in this camera is that the counter of the picture taken is a two-way counter. So when you advance the film, it goes in one direction, but when you rewind the film, it goes back. So it's possible with this camera to do double exposure even on photograms that you already passed. For example, you are at photogram 30 in your roll and you want to do a double exposure on photogram 15. You can just rewind the film until you see 15 in the counter, take the picture and advance it again, obviously with the cover on the lens, so you will not double exposure the other frames. So this is a really fantastic thing that I also used it a lot when I was in the middle of something. I decided I wanted a different sensibility film. So it was okay. I have 100 ISO. I need 400, and I didn't want to waste all the film. So it was just rewind it right on the film that you already took 10 pictures, and the next time you go up and forth, and you can move the camera very well and move the film very well, knowing exactly where you are. So that was very precise, and I loved it. Another thing that is fantastic with this camera, and that's why I stepped up from the MX to this also, is that there's still this lever here, that is the timer release lever. It has multiple functions. One of them is obviously you click and is the depth of field as in other cameras, but the good thing, if you push the button and pull this, the mirror goes up, and so you can work the camera with the mirror up, and that's a really great thing, because you can have no vibration if you have your camera on tripod. You have no vibration at all. And a good thing of this camera is that when the mirror is up, it stays up until you pull it back. On some cameras that I tested and I tried, the thing was that the mirror went down after taking the picture. So you cannot control it with a remote, for example, and do pictures at intervals and have always the mirror up. Great thing about this camera was the line of accessories. Couple of data bags that were very easy to use, and a winder. The winder is this here, that can be used in the combination with an adapter, batteries, extra batteries for sure, but an adapter that was a very huge thing, that it was a controller, so it gave the power to the motor, and also it decided the trigger and this kind of thing, so it was possible to do things like time lapses, what we now call time lapses, and or tell the camera you take the pictures at the time that day. And the nice thing is that to do that there was a back adapter, so it was able to carry film in rolls for 220, I think I remember correctly, 220 exposures. So it was very nice to use for scientific reason. And the window, by the way, is nice and has a nice sound. So and I don't know how much it can go in continuous, but it was pretty fast. It was not bad for the time. So this is the main thing of the camera. As usual in Pentax, is controlled by two LR44 batteries. By the way, I bought this camera used and still had the and I never took away still the protective film and the tax stamps that in Italy everything you buy it taxes, and in this case were the tax stamp, Italian tax stamps for the taxes paid on this camera. And I left it there because I mostly use the other body, and this was okay, it's fun and will have an historical meaning in the future. Other things that is great about this camera is that it's very wide range of work of the exposure meter, because you go from ISO 6 to 3200, so that's very wide. There's an exposure compensation that can be selected, and also in this case a very bright spot comes out in the viewfinder that is impossible to not see if you have the exposure compensation on, and that's something I really like. And the other good things was that you can change the pentaprism, you can change the accessories here, and also without accessory like the one to look from the top or these kind of things. It was possible just to take off the pentaprism and look at the image like this, to do some very low point of view, or flipping the camera back to do point of view from the top over the crowd, and I use it a lot. So this is something that is essential, and very few cameras had it at the time. I think probably Nikon and Canon were the one. I'm not sure about Canon, for sure Nikon had these bulky things over the Nikon F. And this is basically everything there is to know about this camera on the technical specification. Yes, there's a contact flash for the electronic flash and for the bulb flash. The flash has the synchro has 2 extra contacts for the TTL metering and all the other things. In the back there are contacts for the data back and everything to power it. So very modular camera, and a very beautiful camera that worked perfectly. One thing that is very important is that the shutter is an electromechanic shutter. So part of it is working just with the batteries. So if you want long exposures below 1/75, that is the synchro speed for the flash, you need batteries. So if you go here, I'm on the synchro flash and it works perfectly. This camera has no batteries. If you go below, and for example I'm 130, it stays open. It don't close. The shutter doesn't close because it's not working without batteries. But between 1/75 and above to 1/2000, the camera still works without batteries. So this is another thing that I love, because I don't like to be a slave of battery. When you travel, sometimes it's difficult to find a battery. The batteries you have on your bag sometimes can fail, so it's always nice to be able to save yourself in case there's a problem with the batteries. The B pose still working without batteries. So the long exposures, you can do that with the B pose and still the camera is working. So that can save you in many situations. That's all. The beautiful things of the Pentax are all here. I already spoke about them in the ME Super video. So it's the easy system to load the camera, and the bright yellow spot on the lens to collimate the bayonet when you change the lens. Here also in the viewfinder there's all the information you need, because you can see the aperture through these windows, and obviously you can see the speed, and you can see some alarms like the exposure factor and this kind of things. Another good thing about this camera is that the automatic mode, if you put the camera in automatic, the exposure, the shutter is not working as in manual, so is working stepless between 1000 and 1 to 125 seconds, and it's working stepless. So every value between stops is used. Where in manual, you set the shutter speed only in one stop intervals. So that's another thing, that the automatic mode was very precise also for that reason, because it was possible to have a fraction of stops in the of correction. What to say? Okay, another thing that was important and I loved is that the straps here are easy to change and can move freely around. You can put the strap in vertical or in horizontal. Another good thing is that these can be used to attach accessories like grip. Actually, I have one that was supposed to be molded on my hands. I never did it because I don't feel the need to do that, but I still have the grip. And so it was possible to attach grip, and the grip was kind of nice, having perhaps the winder in the weight of the winder. But it's absolutely what I consider a really professional camera. This is made with a lot of things that professionally can be used. I found it perfect in many professional situations. There's nothing that is just a gadget, but it's all essential. And lightweight is what I look for in a camera: lightweight, compact size, and everything I will ever need as a professional is in this camera for the small format. So this is all about this camera, and I will do a video explaining later why I prefer Pentax to other brands, but this is really, for me, the best camera you can get, and they still have a very great value on the used market, because it's some $100 bills to get one of these. But they are very reliable, so if the camera is working, probably it needs just a little bit of cleaning and lubrication, and the camera is perfect. At this point, I think I have nothing more to say about this camera, so thank you for watching the video. Please let me know in the comments if you like the video or not. Put a like, subscribe, but most of all, if there's something you want to ask me about these cameras, just write in the comment and I will try to answer and tell you about my personal experience with them.